Welcome to the first of 3 videos that we will be uploading to break down every game on Thanksgiving. This matchup is my favorite of the 3 as a fan of the Green Bay Packers, but one of the worst games for fantasy as there are so many injuries. It's going to be hard to determine who's ready to go. However, fandom aside, do you think the Lions continue their domination of the NFC North, or can the Packers hobble their way back to relevancy?
So join us as we break down this matchup in depth, help give you some critical analysis, and let us do all the heavy lifting so you can focus on making the best picks for your holiday lineups.
Welcome to DFS Insights. I'm David Geistlinger, and I'm joined by my cousin David Grant Jr. And the teams up on the block are the Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions.
So if you want absolutely free winning lineups, make sure to stay tuned until the end of the stream, where we each provide one of our hand-cured lineups. We're here to put some extra holiday money into your pockets.
Nice. And before we head over to the game overview there, David, let's do a quick recap of the Vikings Broncos lineups that we submitted for the Sunday Night Football matchup.
So we had a winning lineup out of the 2 we put up for Sunday night's game. Unfortunately, that last touchdown drive by the Broncos did cause a few of our lineups to drop just a little bit out of the blue money line, but that's okay. We're now worried about the new money opportunity we have in front of us with this great holiday matchup. So why don't we go ahead and start kind of diving into the overview that we got here of the Green Bay Packers traveling to Detroit.
Yeah, this, like I said, this is going to be, one of my matches, the games to actually watch. Being a Packers fan, don't get to watch too many Packers games. Being out here on the West Coast, so it'd be nice to actually see them play. However, maybe if it was a few years ago, I'd be a little bit more excited about it. But coming into the game, they are coming off a win of last week. They are sitting at a bottom of the NFC North at 4-6, where we have Detroit on the opposite side sitting at 8-2, which is the best football they've done in the last, I think, 50 years now. So they're obviously heavy favorites coming in at a 7.5 point favorite, which that's a clear advantage. Yes, they are playing at home, so there is a slight advantage there, but just based on their past performances and leading up to this, they are, at least to me right now, clearly the better team on paper. And if you want to break down what you see from the ratings, and also maybe jump in over here to what you see on the over-under this matchup.
Yeah, so it looks like the over-under's looking like about 47 or so. I could see, I would probably take the over on that. Man, Green Bay's riddled with injuries right now. So this is definitely a matchup that everybody needs to check the news literally 10, 15, 30 minutes before game time. Make sure to check who is officially playing and who isn't. Lots of Green Bay's just riddled with questionable and doubtful people, so that'll be a big factor. And with Detroit most likely going to be having the lead most of the game, I can see Jordan Love having to throw the ball probably the most he's had to throw all year. Should be an entertaining game. Jordan Love's kind of been all over the place. I've seen him look great, and then I've seen him look like he's completely lost. So it'll be interesting to see, that maybe it'll be a nice change with, having some new guys to throw to, and maybe the pressure's off of them at this point, since I think we can both agree that they're not in the playoff race.
According, if you watch NFL, Network, they're lurking. So what that actually means, to me, but at least from a fan's standpoint, we would have to, I quote, Aaron Rodgers, run the table here at the end to basically, be considered, there. Unfortunately, looking at this, Detroit in previous games are a run-heavy team. They utilize both their running backs, very efficiently. And everybody knows Green Bay's weakness for, the last, 30 freaking years, because we can't correct it, is our run defense. We have a pretty solid, secondary, especially if I believe Jair Alexander might be hopefully coming back. That would obviously be a huge boost there. But our secondary is pretty decent there, but our run game's atrocious. And with, the players Gibbs and Montgomery, and we'll break down how they're going to impact the game here in the next segment. But so the matchup is what it is, and I'm obviously hoping I'll be, as a fan, rooting for Green Bay to win, but I'm going to be, as a DFS player, heavy on Detroit. That's just what it is.
That would be the smart thing to do. I do think that with some of these injuries that Green Bay has, that this could be some potential to get some of those really cheaper guys that are going to get some extra snaps that will help you construct a pretty top heavy lineup. I found myself being able to get to 3 really quality top guys, and then being able to put in 2 cheaper guys that are going to get the snaps, and I think going to get some more targets than usual. It's just going to be a matter of, are they going to catch the ball and convert it, or is it going to be Green Bay going 3 and out and 3 and out and 3 and out? So, if they can keep it competitive, then, this could be a high scoring game for both sides. And that's always good for fantasy points. So, I know that we focus on the single games individually. For this slate, I'm also going to be doing a main slate and a late slate. And so this will kind of transfer over a little bit to that. So for all you guys doing the other slates as well, the Green Bay Packers is a good source to find cheap people, low owned guys that are, have potential to score high fantasy points.
Yeah, and I'll say, if you plan on doing those main slate and the late slate, make sure to watch all 3 of the videos as we break down each individual game. So you'll have an in-depth breakdown of each individual game, and you can make your call on your players, what best suits your lineups for those slates. But yeah, let's. I was gonna say, mentioning about the players and low-owned players, I'm gonna say, well, all the Green Bay players are basically rookies, so you can't get any newer players than that. So let's on that note, let's jump over here and start breaking down these players, starting off here with Jared Goff and the QBs.
Yeah, definitely. So Jared Goff's been having a pretty solid season. I mean, coming out, like you mentioned, at 8-2. They've been doing great. If you at first glance, his ceiling is 27 and his floor is around 12 fantasy points. They are a run heavy team. I mean, now, especially now with both of them healthy, I mean, that's a just a phenomenal 1-2 punch with Montgomery and Gibbs. I will be having a lot of exposure to both of them. I know we're talking about the quarterbacks, but looking at the last 3 games for Goff, 35 attempts, 33, 37. He does have 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So it looks like he's been turning the ball over. And again, that's against the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Bears. So we're not talking phenomenal teams here. We're talking kind of the, lower end.
Yeah.
And as far as Jordan Love goes, at 14-5, to be honest, I think I'll have him in some of my lineups because he is, to me, that boom or bust type of player. I wouldn't be shocked. He kind of, to me, is playing almost for his job. I mean, I know it's his first year, but people are so hard on rookies. When I say rookie, it's because it's his first year as a starter. So he, over his last few games, he's got 40 attempts, 26, 41. So he's definitely throwing the ball. He does have 2 rushing touchdowns, it looks like, on the season. I kind of thought he would be a bigger threat with his legs when you guys drafted him. What are some of your thoughts on Jordan Love? I know you might know a little bit more about him than I do.
Yeah, so Jordan Love, I definitely had a little higher hopes. I was, pessimistically optimistic, or however you say that. Obviously going from, Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and then, Bart Starr, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. So we kind of had, the cream of the crop there for a while. And then now Jordan Love, everybody was, eager to see what he can do. And then, getting this kind of performance, well, is it his fault? Obviously he has, all rookies he's throwing it to, literally everybody, but I believe Dobbs and Watson are rookies, and those 2 are in their sophomore year. So is it really his fault, or is it management? That's we can twit longer about that or whatever, but but no, Jordan Love, he had his first game over 300 yards against the Chargers last week, so that was good to hopefully get out there and get some confidence in him, instill that way. He doesn't turn the ball. He does. I mean, he actually has quite a bit. I didn't think he turned it over quite as much, but quite a bit of interceptions, and not to mention fumbles. So ball security definitely with him seems to, he needs to work on that. But
not to interrupt you, but like you mentioned, I didn't even realize. 2 fumbles last game, a fumble, and he has 4 fumbles over the last 4 games. I mean, that's
4 fumbles and 3 interceptions. So and I think maybe last week was also the first time we've scored a touchdown in the first half of football. So, I mean, they've been saying a fourth quarter team. Well, if you're down 20 points going in the fourth quarter, the odds of you winning aren't that great. However, on the other side of the ball, Jared Goff has, he has the weapons around him to, I think, succeed. Amon-Ra, we'll talk about him here in a few segments, but Jared Goff, he's throwing. He looked actually pretty good. He did, a few interceptions here and there, but I don't know what happened last game with the 3 interceptions to the Bears of all people. So maybe he just kind of was. Maybe he's like went in there underestimating them, like everybody has, and the Bears,
Was that their only win or their second? I know it's their first or second. I think
Bears were actually leading up to the very end, and then the Lions came back and actually won that game.
That's right.
So I don't know how they did, but they pulled it off. If you talked to Dan Campbell and saw his excitement, they persevered basically to the end, and it sure obviously seemed like it. But as far as Jared Goff, he's throwing about up mid 30s passing attempts. Green Bay has a stronger secondary than their run defense, so I believe they'll probably focus more on the run. So I can see these lower 30 numbers passing attempts. I don't think you're going to see these 53, 54 as one. They're probably most likely going to be leading in the game, so they're going to be burning the clock out with the run, and they're already a run-heavy team. So with that being said, let's jump over to these running backs, where the real excitement's gonna be to start off. Jahmyr Gibbs, he basically was the RB2 starting the season out, and then Montgomery got some health issues, and so he jumped in, and then it's like he's been playing for a while now. So he's not only in the rushing game, he's also highly in the the passing game, sitting here 10 targets, 5, 6, 50 yards, 40 yards, 60 yards. And his running ability too is top notch. He has five rushing touchdowns in the last 4 games. So
Yeah.
definitely see him. And then Montgomery, when he is healthy, I have him in my season-long fantasy team, and he's been great when he's healthy. And obviously he gets if he's hurt, he's hurt. But it seems like he's back, at least for the time being. Even like with Gibbs, he still got a rushing touchdown, 80 yards, 120 yards, and a touchdown the previous game versus the Chargers. So, yeah, those 2 running backs I can clearly see probably being I'd say probably the highest owned players would be either one of those going in any part, whether it be I'd even see them probably topping the quarterbacks or even Amon-Ra in the MVP. It's just with the Packers defense, what it is against the run, and then these 2 all-star running backs, you can probably interchange, to be honest. I'll probably be a little heavier on Gibbs, as he is, I think, the RB1 now. But Montgomery, I think, is more the preferred goal line, too. So
yeah. He's the guy smashing it in, for sure.
Green Bay's running backs are just... I don't know what's in the water, but I don't know if you're familiar with that movie Unbreakable, they're Mr. Glass. So Aaron Jones, he's probably played 2 games. He's been out. I hope he gets healthy, but he's doubtful. He avoided, they're saying, a serious injury last game, and that was Sunday. So there's no way he's playing Thursday night. And if he even did play, I would be even more upset because he is probably by far our best player. So him playing hurt does our team absolutely no good, and obviously his longevity there. Dylan's, not sure what happened to him. Last season he was great, like as a backup to Jones. He was that workhorse, and now he's averaging 2 yards a carry. So I don't think I'm high on him. Emmanuel Wilson, he went in for, I believe, a play last week, and he got out with a concussion. So I doubt he'll make a shoulder injury. Wicks is the concussion. So he's out with a shoulder injury, so he's probably not going to play either. And I don't know too much about him as a running back. They did sign, I believe, this James Robertson guy. I'm scrolling way down here. Not sure exactly, but I'm going to keep an eye on Patrick Taylor. He was a running back for Green Bay a few weeks ago, where we kept taking him off our practice squad for a game, on off. Eventually he went over to the Patriots practice squad, and now we officially signed him to the 53-man roster. I do not see him anywhere in here, so I'd be curious to see where they actually put him once it is announced, because he, to me, is better than Dylan. So I'll play Dylan just because I'm assuming the snap counts, but Patrick Taylor will be my running back more. Sorry for the long-winded about the running back, so I'll let you go over.
Hey, Green Bay significantly better than I do. Just like when we talk about the 49er game, I'm going to be. The difference will be I'm going to love rattling off all the stats with that my squad's doing right now.
Yeah.
So in this matchup, Gibbs is just been crushing it. He's been targeted at least 5 times in the last 3 games, as far as reception wise. So it's you get 0.5 fantasy points per reception. So whenever you can get a running back that can get targets and is getting that type of stuff, receiving wise as well as the rushing, then having a double threat like that is great for fantasy. The numbers he's put up against Baltimore, the Raiders, the Chargers, and Chicago, and that's been with Montgomery healthy. I mean, the 1-2 punch that those guys are packing is looking good. So I will have Gibbs or Montgomery or both of them. I would say in 98% of my lineups that I build for this single game slate. I'm probably going to do about 10. I'll be doing 10 to 15 for this single game specifically, only because I feel like this game out of the three has the most volatility to it, just because of the injuries with Green Bay right now. So, and like you mentioned, Aaron Jones is your best player. There's no reason he's doubtful. I don't see him having a chance at playing. And then with Dylan being your RB1, he's also been playing with that injured groin all year. So, the running back to me is the hardest position in the sport. I mean, you're getting blasted more than any other player on the field. So at any moment he could re-injure that. And I mean, now you're going down to your Emmanuel Wilson, who's also questionable, and then like you mentioned, I believe Taylor, you said, is the other guy. So it'll definitely be interesting to keep our eye on the news, see if he gets added on here, because I did not see.
Yeah, he's not on the Fanduels yet.
He's not on here yet. So hopefully Fanduel gets their stuff together and adds him on there, because I could legitimately see him getting some snaps, and especially if the game gets out of control, you don't want to injure Dylan any further than what he is as well. Yeah, I think that about covers the running backs. We should jump over to the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
We also have quite a few injuries at the wide receiver position for Green Bay. Fortunately, it looks like Romeo Dubes is expected to be one of the starters. Christian Watson's questionable, but he's expected to start. And I believe Wicks is questionable and is 50-50 from what I believe I was seeing. I mean, I'm not fully sure, so keep up to date on that. And then Musgrave's been in the hospispittal for the last 2 days with a abdominal injury.
Yeah, he's a tight end.
Yeah. Tight end, yeah, the stepchild of the receivers.
Yeah.
I sometimes get them mixed up because a lot of times that's the favorite target of a quarterback. So, and then obviously for Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown has been crushing it all season. He's had 6 red zone targets in the last 3 games. He's been targeted at least 9 times in the last 3 games. And, early I can see him being the guy also, making some big plays and really running the score up before they hand it over to the running game and just put you guys out of your misery, so to speak. I'll have some exposure to St. Brown for obvious reasons. I mean, he can be one of the possible top fantasy producers on the single game slate. And then just because I think Detroit is going to dominate, that doesn't necessarily lead me to make a whole lot of 4-1 Detroit Green Bay lineups. Because Green Bay will be playing from behind and Jordan Love can be throwing the ball 45 to 55 times, I will be having some exposure to Dubes, and we'll see who ends up being healthy for Green Bay. I'll be keeping my eye on who gets selected as the wide receiver 2, 3, 4, and 5 at this point. So that's where you're going to be able to really dig some value out and plug one of those cheaper guys at 6,000, 5,500, probably even 5,000. Those guys are going to be getting some snaps, and don't be surprised if Jordan Love starts spreading it around trying to find someone new that can catch the ball. So what are some of your thoughts on the receivers?
Yeah, I could, yeah, I agree. So I clearly see Amon-Ra St. Brown as the number one receiver, even on both teams. But obviously, his points are going to count towards Detroit. So it clearly looks like he is Goff's number, his wide receiver one. Like I said, Green Bay's secondary is good. Let's see if Jair Alexander, is playing. He is one of our, our better CBs. So we'll see if they can, if they can contain him. If they do, obviously, I believe some of the other secondary options for Goff aren't obviously nearly as good, but they're not, something to overlook. Where I believe your wide receiver 2, Josh Reynolds, he's not getting nearly as much because I believe, like I said, if it's not to Amon-Ra, we'll get into it. Their tight end is, up there in targets too, but then they're running the ball 42% of the time, so there's just not enough targets to even throwing it, low 30s. If 15 of them are going to, Amon-Ra, 15 of them are going to the tight end, then there's really 3 or 4 left to the other ones. So Joshua Reynolds and Jameson Williams, I don't know too much. It looks like he did get a touchdown last game, so this might be one of a lower at 7,500, a viable option. Khalif Raymond, it looks like he maybe got overdone with by Jameson Williams as the wide receiver 3. But as far as Green Bay's receivers, geez, where do I start? Christian Watson was supposed to be the number one, receiver. His speed, everything from last year, they had high hopes. He finally got over that, caught that first touchdown, and he was kind of starting to click with Aaron Rodgers. And then obviously the offseason happened, and Rodgers went over there to the Jets. So Watson, it just doesn't seem like he's hit his stride, whether he's just been he was plagued with a few injuries here and there, and he didn't play a few games, and he finally caught his first touchdown last game. But even if you're looking at it, I mean, he has the one game at 91, but the rest are below 40 yards. And as your wide receiver 1, that's, terrible.
Yeah, so that's not going to win you too many ball
I can
games.
clearly see why he's down there at 8K, even though people might think he's the wide receiver 1. But to me, anyways, is this Jaden Reed rookie. It says he is questionable. He was limited, but with a chest injury, but I believe he'll play. He seems to be, at least when he's catching it, he's also, getting them yards, 46, 84, 83, 63, 55. He actually has 4 touchdowns on the year. And they also did, I believe, if you look in there, he also had about a 30-yard rush. So they used him in the rushing game, similar to I'm not going to compare him to Debo, but similar to what San Francisco would do, and do that little sweep around and run to the outside, and he's a pretty quick guy. So maybe with Dylan, our running back core, looking way it is, they might do a few more of those plays with him. And I can clearly see why he's the highest salary Green Bay receiver. Dobbs seems to be, on paper, the target for Love. He does have the bulk of the TDs this year. He did have a lull against the Rams, but the last 2 games he had a touchdown, and they were actually pretty good. Pretty nice catch last game against the Chargers to give the Packers the lead in that game. But even still, it doesn't seem like I said, Jordan Love has his first game over 300, so it's really kind of, you're hoping the Green Bay Packers get a TD, because they're not going to get you the yards, point-wise for fantasy. And then my other one was this Wicks guy. I was comparing him to Reed, but unfortunately he suffered a concussion and a knee injury last game. I don't know about this new protocol, but it seems like the concussions, they typically are missing a game, and especially on a short week, I can kind of see him getting the short end of the stick and not playing Thursday. But keep an eye on him, because he would probably be Definitely wide receiver 4, but maybe similar to a cheaper option to Watson to save yourself $1,000 salary wise there. Samurai Torre, he did get some snaps, but that's a pipe dream. He does get snaps, but he hasn't seen that many targets. So, and then that's basically my opinion on the receivers, and then moving over here to the tight ends, or the, as we calling them, the stepchild of the wide receivers, the tight ends. So I had a lot to say about Musgrave for Green Bay. Unfortunately, he's been in the hospital with a serious, quote, abdominal injury, so I don't see him playing, especially on a short week, Thursday. So who does Green Bay use? It looks like this Tyler Kraft guy, Tucker Kraft, seems to be getting the bump over Josiah DeGuara. So is this Kraft guy going to have some magical connection? I believe Musgrave is the better catcher. So will he probably get a few targets? Yes, but it's Green Bay's passing, and I don't see that as a viable option. Moving to the actual exciting tight end on the slate, and I hate to say that, like I said, as a Green Bay fan, Sam Laporta, just having a beast of a season. Definitely, I'd say wide receiver 2 for, or the second, pass opportunity for Goff. So if you're looking at exploiting, Green Bay is known to be soft on tight ends. It would be, I'd say, softer on tight ends than they are wide receivers, because typically Green Bay, we decide to leave the middle of the field open for some reason. So yeah, definitely Laporta I see as the valuable option, especially sitting at 10-5. So what are your opinions on the tight ends of this game?
Yeah, I guess like you said, I really thought Musgrave was going to play until I saw the update of the hospitalization, and then as I've kind of looked on multiple different websites, I mean, I'm just getting a mixed bag, because some websites are saying still that he is expected to start and is questionable, but then others are reporting, oh, he's in the hospital on a Tuesday on a short week, don't expect him to play. So there's been mixed reporting, so definitely something to stay on top of as far as the news goes, because him at 7,500, and depending on what they say about this rib injury, a lot of these guys seem to be getting it, where they get tackled and the cartilage or something in between their ribs, like Ayuk had that for the Niners. I think it was like in our first game. He toughed it out. I mean, that dude's just a monster. And I've been seeing other players getting this type of injury and wincing a lot. So a lot of times they say, oh, how much pain tolerance do you have? So, assuming he doesn't play, like you mentioned, it looks like the backup is going to be Kraft. And at 5,500, I mean, I'm willing, I'll definitely have some exposure there, just on the pure fact he's 5,500. Even before the injury, he went 2 for 2 for 32 yards. He got 3 targets the game before that. So he has been targeted in other games, which is always a good sign. So if he's going to move up to tight end 1, then let's say that he gets double the targets. I mean, I would assume he would see double the targets. Then at 5,500, he could have a chance to pay off that salary. And again, it's a risky play because he's not a major part of their offense now, or for most of the season. But that's the unknown is where you can separate yourself from the others. And if I know he's going to get some targets and he's 5,500, I will have some exposure to him, hoping that he's low owned. I'll be interested to see the ownership projections on him, because if he's going to be 25-30% owned, then at that point you need to figure out what type of leverage you want to have, because if a lot of the field is going to have him, I don't want to take a chance with a whole bunch of other people on him. You know what I'm saying? So I'll have some exposure to him, most like, like I said, most likely. Sam Laporta at the 10-5. Like you said, he's really more or less their wide receiver too. It because they're such a run-heavy team, and because they are most likely going to have the lead in the second half and into the fourth quarter. I'll be, I'll probably have him in a lineup or two. He clearly has upside and is a great player. I just feel like he might get pretty chalky, and I'm going to try to differentiate in a couple other places to try to make my lineups not as chalky, so I'm not tying with a bunch of people after I win all this money. So, so besides the tight ends, we could hop over to, the defense and kicker, special teams. What are your thoughts on how this matchup looks with defense?
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about it. I can clearly I'm going to have, them definitely in a few lineups, because I can clearly see that, Green Bay could get a few picks here and there. And same with the Lions. They can get a few picks off Love and also some fumbles. So there are the potential for, turnovers in the game. And then the kickers, Carlson has actually been pretty good for us kicking wise. But it's just we don't score that many points, so that's why he's not so high. So that's the gamble you're basically going to take. If I pick a kicker, it'd probably be the Detroit, just because I can clearly see them getting into field goal range more often. But I'll definitely, I don't have too much to say. Nothing, that's out of the ordinary between a kicker and a defense, in your typical lineup. If you want to go super contrarian and maybe set yourself apart, throw one of these defenses in the MVP and just, hope for those turnover-based games. But I don't see myself doing that in this particular matchup. Potentially, if one of the defenses were, say like a Dallas defense, where they're known to get, some defensive scores, I'd be more prone to do that. But these ones, no. I don't know your opinion on the defenses and the kickers, but how do you see it?
Yeah, so kind of taking a look at the Detroit Lions defense, a little scary seeing Chicago score 26 on them, getting 2 sacks and a fumble recovery. The Chargers put up 38 on them and had an interception. And then they did play Green Bay earlier this season, where Green Bay put up 20 points. Did put 20 points up on them, 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, that means Detroit had the 5 sacks and 2 interceptions. 20 points were scored on them by Green Bay. I could easily see Green Bay not scoring 20 because of all these injuries. I don't know what type of continuity the offense is going to have. So like you mentioned, in a lineup or two, I might mix it up and throw some Detroit Lions defense in there, just hoping. And then as far as the kickers go, I just don't see myself getting to Carlson for the Packers, even though he's a great kicker. I just feel like when teams are too far behind in that second half, they're more prone to going for it on the fourth down and trying to get the TD when a field goal isn't going to matter if you're down 14, 17 points, towards the end of the third and in the fourth quarter. So the Detroit Lions kicker, usually I'm usually I like putting the kicker in there, and And Riley Patterson does have a high of 17 fantasy points against the Raiders. It's he's been looking pretty good all year. He did have the 4 extra points and went 2 for 2 when he played Green Bay before and had 10 fantasy points. I could see him getting something similar in that area. So kind of, I might have him in a lineup or 2. But this is one of the rare times where I don't see myself getting to the defense or the kickers very much. So.
Yeah. Well, let's find out, exactly what your lineups actually look like. Jumping over here to your lineup. What's your thought process behind this?
Yeah. So I am going with Gibbs at MVP. He's just been too dominant over the last 4 games for me to ignore. He's got four rushing touchdowns, 152 yards against the Raiders, 77 yards against the Chargers, 36 yards against Chicago. That was on 8 rush attempts, but he did go 6 for 6 reception wise for 59 yards. Against the Raiders, not only did he rush for 152 yards, but he went 5 for 5 for 37 yards. Even against Baltimore, he got on 11 attempts, 68 yards and a touchdown, and then went 9 for 10. He got targeted 10 times for 58 yards. I can't ignore that, because those are stats while Montgomery is also in a couple of those games. Even with the last 2, Chicago, he's had a touchdown in each of those games. So I see Gibbs as kind of the RB, as the RB1. So I got him at MVP. Then I got Montgomery because, again, my game script, I see them being probably 70% running. And then I come down to St. Brown. Like I mentioned, by going two cheaper people from Green Bay allows you to pay up for 3 guys over 13K, really over 14K. I'm leaving 1,500 on the table as well to try to help separate myself from tying with anybody else. St. Brown could easily have the most fantasy points on the game as well. I mean, 4 of his last 5 games, he's rushed for over 100 yards. He's hit 156 and 124, and has, 3 touchdowns in the last 5 games. So, he did go 5 for 7 for 56 yards and a touchdown last time he played Green Bay. I could see something similar, if not better, this time around. And then, Dubes, I think Romeo will be probably the highest targeted Green Bay Packer receiver. He's definitely their red zone receiver. So if you make it to the red zone, if you get down there, that's the guy who's going to be taking it in. So I got Dubes at 9,500, and then again, I'm counting on Musgrave being out, and I'm going to go ahead and do, again, this is for the large field GPP, so I'm going to go ahead and go with the dart throw Tucker Kraft. And when Jordan Love is being pressured, which he's going to get pressured a lot of times they dump it off to the tight end. So that's kind of usually the safety net, and I could see that safety net being used quite a bit against the pretty solid defense of Detroit. So that's kind of the thought process, because I'm game scripting for the Detroit to be winning pretty much the entire game. They're going to be winning because they're going to be running it down Green Bay's throats, and because they're going to be winning late, it's going to force Green Bay to be passing a lot, and we know Jordan Love likes to throw the ball regardless. So I'm going to have 2 pass catchers from Green Bay instead of doing the 4-1 Detroit. I could see that being viable, but I think a 3-2. There's just too much value that can be found in the Green Bay selection. So that sums my lineup up. What's your lineup looking like? Because I have no clue, and you were alluding that earlier I might be surprised. So
yeah, well, no, I since I didn't know your lineup, just looking over it, it's actually similar. I thought you were for sure gonna go 4-1 Detroit. So looking over at it, I mean, it's pretty similar. So I agree with everything you said, especially in the larger field. Gibbs, being the probably the most owned MVP, definitely going with the Tucker Craft and the 1500, leaving them on the table, are definitely a viable option. And then I just say going anybody Green Bay. I mean, I know you have to by law have one Green Bay player, but if I had the choice, I'd probably do 5 things. But jumping over.
Yeah, I did catch myself having 5 people from Detroit, and when I went click submit, it said, no, sorry, you've selected too many players from the same team, and I looked up and didn't realize I had done that. So
yeah. So as you can see here on my lineup, I also went Gibbs in the MVP and Montgomery, because I know, just being a Green Bay fan, that we get run on and we let them run on us. Will it change this game? Well, as a fan, I sure hope so. But as a fantasy, player in this particular matchup, no, because I'm going to be going heavy on both, if one, if not both, in bulk of my lineups. I will have a few outliers, obviously, just to kind of ensure in case those one-off games happen. It covers my field. But instead of going Amon-Ra, because I think he'll be, just to save kind of that 6K, and he'll probably be highly owned, I went Sam Laporta. I know he will be, heavily owned as well, but being 6K less than Amon-Ra, and I see Packers defense giving up a lot more yardage to tight ends, I'm going with him more as, hopefully he gets, those opportunities there. As much, and then dropping down to, I thought, like I said, I want 2 Green Bay to kind of set me aside from, I think most people are going to probably be going Detroit heavy. I went with Jordan Love. I don't think too many people are going to be convinced of his last game's performance, especially, Detroit is a decent team. However, I'm banking on the fact that they just let Justin Fields scored 28 points on them, so I'm hoping that Love can get me 21 of it. So with that, I paired him up with the receiver Watson. However, I went with Watson because I know he's going to be more guaranteed playing in the lower owned of Green Bay's receivers. However, I'm going to keep my eye on. And that also zeroes out the salary, which I'm not a big fan of, especially in these larger fields. But I'm going to keep my eye on Wicks, because that's who I initially had in here, and he's sitting at 7K. So if I replace Wicks with Watson, once I can guarantee he's going to play, then I'll be leaving 1,000 on the table with basically a wide receiver 4. So that will put me even separating farther in those larger field tournaments. So for right now, I'm going to keep Watson. This is the lineup I'm going to go with, and I definitely will probably keep this submitted regardless if Wicks plays. But if Wicks does play, I will literally submit the same lineup, just swap out Christian Watson with Wicks to do that. And that's typically what I do with a lot of lineups. Get that one lineup I like, and I'll jumble one player in, one player out. That way I kind of cover most of my bases with that lineup I feel is going to get me the most bang for my buck there. So what do you think of the lineup? It's not as surprising, I guess, as I thought.
Well, yeah, I mean, the surprising part would be we didn't communicate at all what our lineups were or anything before the podcast, and to see you literally have Gibbs Montgomery is almost telling me like that might be what a lot of people are thinking. So, I'll be mixing and matching that. Obviously, Gibbs. I'll be overexposed to Gibbs for sure. It's almost a free square in a way. I do like that you have Jordan Love because his upside is definitely there, and he's going to be throwing the ball. So if people are catching it, and he can have a big game, and he needs a big game. He kind of needs a statement game. He's due. So I like that, and the Sam Laporta pick. A lot of casual people, I think more casual people will be playing because it's Thanksgiving than maybe would play, every weekend or every slate and that type of stuff. So those type of people typically will game log troll. And if I pull it up, his last 2 games, he had 5 fantasy points and 6. And then if my next move would be to go down and see when he played Green Bay, he had 7 fantasy points. But, clearly his upside, is 18 to 20 fantasy points. So I see him being possibly lower owned, than he should be. So I like that. And the Christian Watson, I guess I just don't have faith in him personally. I've tried to get on the bandwagon. It seemed like when Rodgers was there that like he was putting up good numbers and whatnot, and since it's been Jordan Love, I just don't know why. The connection doesn't seem to quite be there. I mean, he's got two touchdowns all season. One of them was against Detroit, so I guess that's good news. And I guess, he got targeted 4 times there. I could see his targets going up because of the injuries and some of the other stuff. So, my major concern would be the zeroing out of the salary. So as you mentioned, making another lineup with going, if Wicks is able to play, it would be good to leave some salary on there just to differentiate. So great lineup. I might steal it from you to put into a single entry myself or something. So my only concern is zeroing out the salary, but I think you have done enough there to differentiate from other chalkier lineups.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, as well too. But we also want to hear what you guys think. What lineup do you guys feel like you would enter in? If not, let us know in the comments below who's you want to put in. If not, are you putting in both? And riding the train, we have a pretty good record going forward, as we haven't hit the 100K to first, but we have at least doubled the money in quite a bit of these lineups. So
Yeah, make sure to check the description, because for each one of these games, for the single game here, the Dallas game and the 49er game, there'll be links in each description for a free tournament. It's a 100-person tournament, and all you have to do is show proof that you liked the video and that you subscribed. And if your lineup is able to beat my lineup and David's lineup, and you take first place, I'll Venmo you $100. So if you are up to the free challenge and trying to get some extra free money for the holidays, then check the description and enter below.
Yeah, we look forward to meeting, obviously competing against the viewers and everything, and it's a free chance to win some easy money. I mean, obviously you still gotta beat not only us but come in first, but we got to keep it a little challenging. It is first come first serve, so make sure you hit that like, you hit the subscribe button, you jump into that tournament, because it is, unfortunately, we don't have the largest community as of right now, so it's going to get filled up by outside people, and we can't just lock it down to just our small 100 group. So with that, let's go ahead and end it with our predictions on who you think is going to be the MVP, who do you think is going to be the value play, and who do you think is going to win, and the score of the matchup.
Let's see. Yeah, I got Josh Gibbs just dominating. I think he gets a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown.
Jameer Gibbs or Jared
Oh,
Goff?
Jameer Gibbs.
Okay, okay,
Jameer Gibbs.
okay.
Yeah. I'm not crazy. So yeah, I got Jameer Gibbs as the MVP. And then my value play, kind of as I alluded to on my lineup I had up there. I do think the tight end Tucker Kraft for Green Bay. I do see him getting more targets. I think with Green Bay's window closing on playoff hopes for this season, Green Bay is going to want to see what they do have out of some of these other players, and I could see him getting some extra targets and being able to hit value at $5,500 and being low owned.
Nice, yeah.
Who do you got for MVP and your low owned picked?
Well, before I talk about that, what's your final score of the matchup? I don't think we caught that.
Oh yeah, yep. My apologies. I got Detroit. Detroit 34, Green Bay 17. I don't really see it being all that competitive. I hope for your sake it is, since I know you're a diehard Green Bay fan. So, hopefully you get be able to have a nice Thanksgiving meal and have your team win. That's what it feels like it's going to be for me and my team. So I hope for you as well. What are your predictions for MVP and value play in the game play now?
So I'll probably take the cheap way out with my MVP pick. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a coin flip between Gibbs and Montgomery. They just both have the possibility to run all over the Green Bay defense. They're both utilized in the game. Jameer Gibbs, obviously, as the RB1, has that potential. He has the explosiveness to break off that long run, but I believe Montgomery gets those goal lines. So how it plays out, I think, to be honest, it'll be a coin flip on who's going to basically, they're probably going to compete with each other for, most touchdowns in a single game. So with that value play, it's kind of hard because I want to say a few players. I'm looking at Wicks to see if he plays because I'll be high on him. I also want to see if FanDuel puts in the Patrick Taylor as the running back, because I can clearly see him coming in at a $5,000, $6,000 player. So if he's going to be, the RB2 at 5 or 6K, there's high probability that he gets the points to be considered that best value player. So definitely keep an eye on that. But if I have to say the players that I know for sure are playing, I think Watson has the potential, just based on his salary and what I know he has done in the past. I think he'll be your best value pick if given the opportunity. If Jordan Love, finds him and, hopefully, whatever injury he was working through, it's over with. Hopefully he got a little bit of confidence off that, touchdown last game. Does it continue? Let's see. So as far as
so what's the score? Yeah, what's your prediction here on
70-20? Have another Miami Broncos game. That wouldn't be too bad for my fantasy ways. But no, in reality, I want to say you kind of stole. I was going about 34-7. Yeah. 28. 30, 31. 31. I'm gonna say 24. 31-24.
Okay, so it could possibly be possibly competitive at the end. Is what we're hoping.
Well, I just, and Green Bay will have 3 points up until halftime. I want to make that clear, and we score all our points in the second half. So if you maybe do the second half betting, that might be you might go Green Bay that second half. But no, that's what I think. 31-24. So with that, over here somewhere we have. I'm going to be posting links to the game 2, which is the Commanders versus the Cowboys, and also game 3, which is the primetime game versus San Francisco 49ers versus the Seahawks. So obviously, if you liked our breakdown, please, like, subscribe this video, and then also, ride the coattails over to the next videos and show some love. But until then, see you in the next episode.
Happy holidays. Hope everybody makes a bunch of money.